Welcome to the Essentially You podcast, Dr. Joan Rosenburg. How are you doing today, Joan?
I am awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, you
Good.
and I, we're both navigating this time together along with everybody else in the world. And you are my go-to expert when it comes to navigating fear, uncertainty, emotions, not knowing what kind of emotions are coming out and how to process those emotions. And I know that this has been, I can't even imagine how many conversations, how many videos you've been on in the past week or so, because so many people are so desperate for your advice. And so tell me, how has it been for you just helping people to navigate through this time?
You know what? Well, I feel like it's consistent with what I do just in general, but it has been busier. I've probably done 6 to 8 kind of different interviews or more in the past, probably in the past 7 days.
Yeah.
I'm staying with it, and I totally understand that. This is a super important time to actually be in charge of your mindset. So I'm just grateful that people, and for you, I'm grateful for your kind words, and I'm grateful that people trust and have an understanding that there's other ways to look at what's going on, and that they see me as a person that can serve and contribute in that way.
I love that. And I know when we had a brief little conversation on the phone, a big focus was kind of exactly what you said, was how do we manage our mindset? Because right now it feels like everything's happening to us, but we really have a lot of choice in how we feel or how we process emotions, how we want to manage the way that we approach all of this. So talk to me, like, what does it mean specifically to manage our mindset?
So, great question. Here's the way to think about this. This is a time of profound loss for all of us, and it's a time of also of uncertainty and unpredictability. It's like everything, and the speed at which everything happened really is jarring. But that doesn't mean that we can't actually manage what we're going through in a way that's not quite so reactive. And instead that we go, all right, okay, I don't really know what's going on, but I have the present moment that I can be in charge of, right? And that we don't, are there lots of challenging circumstances that are happening around us? Is it a difficult situation? Heck yes. So let's look at that realistically and acknowledge the truth of that. And then also understand that if we just stay in a worrying and panicked state, that we're giving into the reactivity. And instead, what we can do is we can be in charge of what we're thinking, and we can be in charge of how we think it. So it's so that the idea is that be concerned, yet be calm, right? And that part of the way you do this is to understand that again, to acknowledge the unpredictable, but to be in charge of what you think. So it's, and my focus for people, and if I pull it down to just one sentence, is to think, to speak, and to act in the direction you want to go.
That's
right?
Powerful. I was going to just say, go deeper into that, because a lot of people, I bet they're hearing this. Okay, I got to think, I got to say, I got to act how I want to be, how I want to manage this. And I know a lot of people are still thinking, I don't know how to do that. Joan, how do I change this feeling that I'm having? I'm on Instagram, I'm on social media, I'm seeing the updates on the news, and it just feels like it's kind of tumbling around me. What is a strategy or a tool set that I can use to, even though that's happening, like we're in it, adversity is happening, and life is going to always have adversity in it. It's how we manage those moments in the now that really dictate how it's going to look for us moving forward. But how do I change my state? How do I change my physiology if I am feeling like there's this restrictive, panicky emotion that's going through me?
So, well, again, recognize that the reactions you're having are normal. First part. Second part is, even as you were talking, it's like slow down your breathing. Right? Yeah. So one of the things that people can do is actually literally to slow their physiology down. And the simplest most effective and fastest way to do it, paradoxically, is to engage in slow, deep breathing. So you can't be in a state of anxiety physiologically and a state of calm simultaneously. So if you slow your breathing down and really take slower, deep breaths, it actually literally, it changes the other state. So physiologically, what one can do, slow, deep breathing and do it extended. And, many people talk about kind of they up level the count. So it might be a 4 count in, a 6 count hold, and an 8 count exhale. And do that for 5 to 10 minutes. And every time you remember to do it, or you think about it, and then practice it, right? So you could actually train your body physiologically to slow down.
Yeah.
The second thing, based on what you were saying about social media and the TV and what I would say is stop all of that. It's like to keep the TV running or to keep ongoing commentary about the virus running is not helpful for the body physiologically. So one of the other things I would have people do is find 1 or 2 or 3 times at most during the day that you're going to check in on the virus, right? And check in on the news you think is most important, because it's a little bit like 9/11 for people. And what happened with 9/11 is that people were glued to the TV, but all they did was continue to replay stuff. And the more you stay in that replay, the more amped up you stay, and the more traumatized. It's what I call vicarious traumatization. You might not have been in it directly, but just by watching it, you're actually keeping your whole system on hyper alert and hyper vigilant, and traumatize yourself just by watching. So cut back the time. Very practical suggestion. Just really narrow those windows of time that you actually allow yourself to look at stuff.
You're absolutely right. Everything's on replay. It's not like there's a lot of updated news happening multiple times a day. We're just seeing the same thing over and over again. And I talk about this a lot on the show, is how the brain is just trying to protect us. And the brain just keeps censoring, it just keeps picking up threats. And the brain doesn't know the difference between you watching something or something actually happening to you. And it's just trying to do the best it can do, but we get stuck in these loops like you're talking about. And the news just keeps shoving us back into this loop. Is that kind of what's going on with us?
Absolutely. And the other part of it is that when we, from a brain standpoint, when we experience something that's unfamiliar, then the brain perceives that what's unfamiliar as a threat. It perceives it as dangerous. And none of us have been quarantined to our homes, and none of us have had exposure to this kind of a virus before, right? So the brain is simply going, well, where do I put this? This is unlike everything else I've known, right? So until we get into the, if you will, the familiarity of the quarantine, of being sheltered at home, and we start to then make use of that familiarity to calm us down, then we can be more focused in the present, and we can begin to make decisions about how we want to use the time.
Talk to me about decision making when we're in a kind of a panic state versus decision making when we're in a more relaxed state. Because I think sometimes I feel like a lot of us are making very reactive type of decisions, and we don't realize that we can be in a different state, and it could really create a different type of creative solution for us.
Right. Thank you. Again, great question. I'll give you an example. I was in a conversation with one of my clients last week. She's got 2 kids. She's actually in a decent position. She's still working, and she was talking about how anxious and panicked she was. And I said, look around you. Are you safe? She goes, yes. I said, do you have food? Yes. Shelter? Yes. Friends? Yes. Family? Yes. Community? Yes. Oh, then can you be calm and concerned as opposed to anxious and panicked? Well, what about my kids? Is that the same thing? What do they have? So part of it is bringing yourself back into the present moment and checking around you, knowing, and if you're taken care of and resourced, then bring yourself back to calm. And again, part of this it's like what I asked her is like, can you be creative and can you think about contribution? You're well resourced right now. So that's a calm place to be.
Mm.
And so one of the things that people can do is to think of how they're resourced, to look around them, so literally look around. And again, some people will not be in this as well resourced as this woman is, but you can look around, and if there's community, connect to the community, right? And so there's ways to calm yourself down to then be in charge of how and what you think through this experience.
And I love the concept of contribution. I learned a long time ago, it's hard to be in a funky state or a crappy state when we're helping other people who are not as well resourced, who do not have the privileges or all the, the setup that we may have. So how can we look around into our community and see who needs help? And wow, that really shifts our mindset really quickly.
Yes, yeah, it does. So there's three kind of really big things that I think about. I think about connection, community, and contribution during this time. So some of the big questions, if people have the opportunity, it's also a period of contemplation.
Yes.
So that this is an opportunity to kind of, we're all sheltered, right? Or most of us are sheltered, or should be, and so it's a time for self-reflection. And so questions that I would invite people to ask themselves is, how do I want to be now, and how do I want to be going forward? And how do I want to show up? So again, if you're well resourced, then look around, look for the ways that you can be in connection with other people, look for ways that you can foster a sense of community, and look for ways that you might be able to contribute. Even if it's a phone call to somebody, or talking with somebody you haven't talked to in a very long time. That's all contribution, and it's connection.
Yeah, I mean, easy as grabbing your phone, sending some text messages, checking on other friends and family. Just, it's really easy. I mean, let's just grab our phone and use it for a different purpose, opposed to getting into the news.
Yes, definitely.
I would love to shift our conversation a little bit to talking about routines and rituals and schedule. Clearly, everything's gotten flipped upside down. A lot of us are home, and it can look very different for each and every one of us. And I find that if we aren't creating structure or rituals or schedule, it can still feel very up in the air about how we should manage our mindset.
Yes, absolutely. So here's the deal with creating a ritual or creating a schedule. So think of what we're coming out of right now is chaos. We're in chaos, and we're also coming out of chaos at the same time. Not chaos on a broader level still exists. Chaos maybe within our own home it may feel disordered right now, but when you create a routine or you schedule things. So if you've got kids at home, that, obviously many of them may be on a school schedule, honor that school schedule, even though you're home with them, and build in, and if you have to work, create a schedule around that. So it's not disordered at home. Part of what ends up happening when you create this ritual or you schedule things, it creates a sense of order. And a sense of order creates a sense of calm. Or it begins to develop a sense of calm. So when you know that you can establish something that's more predictable within your own home, then it feels more ordered, then it feels more calm. So the whole purpose of doing that has to do with actually finding something that creates more calm for the brain.
Kind of sending the brain safety signals that everything is good to go.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think we all operate with good scheduling, with rituals, kind of creating order in our life or a routine in our life. And I think that we have the ability, even though it looks like a different type of scheduling, it looks like a different type of routine, we can create our kind of now new normal. I mean, clearly our new normal can change again back to the way it used to be, but we have an opportunity to create a new normal right now. And Joan, honey, what are some of the things that you're doing for your new normal? Like what, I know that you work at home sometimes as well, but I know that you're home just like myself, pretty much 24/7.
Right.
What is that new normal for you looking like?
Well, then this is where I was going to take the next part of the
Yeah.
conversation. So for me, new normal means actually probably getting more sleep. And because I'm not in the fast-paced demand that in terms of out and about and doing all the different things I was doing, I can be much better about my nutrition. And also it's allowing me to build in things. And this is the thing I was also going to suggest is as you're creating that schedule, think about building in things you haven't built in before. So for me, a regular time of meditation, it's building in time for that. In fact, it's creating that schedule first and then building my appointments around that schedule, right? So which is a different way for people to think about it. So one of the things you can do in this new normal is build in the nutrition, build in the exercise, build in the meditation, build in the journaling, build in the rest, right? And build in the things you don't typically do, as well as I haven't had the chance to do this yet, but one of the things I'd like to complete some courses. So it's, again, you can use it as a time for curiosity and creativity. So I want to complete new courses, and I also want to learn new things. So you can learn new skills during this time. So and this is where we're taking charge with our minds and not focusing on the circumstance. Instead, we're focusing on kind of who we want to become and what we want to do.
Hmm. I love that. I work a lot from home already, and in
Right.
a lot of ways, quarantine felt like my normal. It's a little bit abnormal, but for the most part, it's business as usual here. But one of the things that I've been doing, and I'm pretty consistent, like I have two versions of self-care in the morning. I call it the Bentley of rituals, and then I've got like the I got to get by non-negotiable rituals.
Okay.
And either way, I got to do one or the other. And I've been able to do more of the Bentley version of my rituals.
Sweet.
And
Okay.
I have my scheduling doesn't come on until a specific time. So I have that expansion to do that. My husband and I over dinner, we've been watching, Mary Morrissey is one of your mentors.
Yes.
And we've been watching a ton of her videos over dinner and just connecting in with the personal development. So there's a lot of little tweaks that we've made to our everyday life that have felt just more expansive. And always the question every day I ask is, how can I show up? What can I do from where I'm at with what I've got? And that's pretty much how we've been operating. And it has felt so good. I don't know how to not be productive. I'm not going to pretend like that's not the case, but it's felt very different and it's felt really good in the whole process of it. And I think it's just, for us, it was just changing the way we thought about it. And so I love your recommendations here.
Awesome. No, and so this is a perfect example in terms of how you're exerting choice in how you're approaching. So rather than having more TV on, you're choosing you're choosing personal development, right? So whether it's Mary or it's somebody else, it's that you're choosing into something that's helping foster your brain, right, and is growthful, as opposed to keeping you in a panicked or anxious state. So this is part of what I'm talking about in terms of the choices we can make.
Absolutely. Like Netflix has not been on at all. I know a lot of people, and get into your Netflix, get into your shows. But for us, we just decided that in that time together, we want to be able to grow together. And I just, and I hope that when people are listening to our conversation today, that they're thinking to themselves, how is it that I can kind of grow a little bit? What book have I not read in a while or I want to go back to? Because yes, I was on the phone with my mom yesterday. We did a little FaceTime. I am literally my mother's daughter. She is from here to there and everywhere. She's handling business. And I was on the phone doing a little FaceTime live with her. And she told me, she's like, you know what, Marisa? She's like, it's almost hard for me to admit, but I am so happy that I get to be home right now. I really needed this. I need the time to organize my life. I needed the time to organize my home. I've got my little yoga set up. I'm watching my yoga videos. Well, she's actually doing yoga, not just watching yoga videos.
Right.
But I was listening to my mom and I was like, who is this woman? I don't know who this woman is. I'm pretty sure. I'm like, wait, are you my mama? Real quick, let me just check in. Maybe here's some other woman who swapped with my mom. And I was like, okay, if my mama can do this, like if my mom can tap into what feels good for her. I'm like, anybody can tap into what feels good for them.
Right, right. So, and I know that Mary also talks about this, and other personal development people use the same question. It's turning an experience that someone can look at and go, why did this happen to me? And instead shifting the question to, why is this happening for me?
Mm.
And so your mother is responding in a way that she's, oh, okay, how can I make this for me, right? Oh, look, I can go do yoga, I can declutter, right? And I can reorganize, all those different kinds of things. So I look at kind of the flip sides. It's both, given what your mother's describing, it's both a time of completion as well as a time of creativity,
Mm.
right?
Talk to me about completion. Talk a little bit about what that means for us.
Well, again, if you're at home and you've got projects that you haven't done, or to your point, books you haven't read in a long time, or the personal development things you want to tune into, then close out in places where you have open loops, where there's projects that have not been completed, or things that you've wanted to do and you've held off on, then get them complete. It actually will give you more energy to declutter, to reorganize, to complete projects, all those different kinds of things, so that your energy will actually lift naturally. It's like an organic lift as you kind of close the loop and complete something. So that's what I'm talking about from the sense of completion.
I love that. And also I think about like in terms of looking at those projects, is these are action steps. Like we can take action, and when we are doing something with purpose, or we're doing something that we want to do, it really is, it's not just a distraction. It is like moving us forward in the right direction.
You know what? That's 100% true. And the way to think about it is that taking action actually decreases anxiety. So if you think about the kinds of things that you can do, then every one of those action steps actually pushes back against an anxious state.
That's what, okay. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I know Joan has a better way of saying this than I do.
That's
but
okay. No,
I always feel like if I'm moving in that direction, things just kind of melt away. So
right.
What I've loved so much about this conversation is, one, awareness is so key. Two, the breath work to change that physiology, to send the brain safety signals that say, we're good, we're safe. Doing that little check around, like, okay, I got food, I got housing, I've got my heaters running, whatever those things are. I've got connection and friends. And then, like, what can I look to do? How can I create rituals? How can I create routines? And what are some things that I've been wanting to do on my list that finally I've got some expansion to do it?
Right.
And
yeah.
now we've got it's a whole different ball game.
Yes, it is. And now your mind is in charge, right? You're in charge of your mind, because you're moving in a direction that's actually growthful and supportive.
I love that. I love that so much. Any
Yeah.
last little takeaways, little tidbits you want to just share with us before I have you share how to plug into you?
Okay. You know what? I would come back to where we started,
Yeah.
Marisa, and that is, my thing is that understand you don't have to stay in a state of reactivity, and you don't have to stay in a state of high alertness and alarm, right? So pull back from the media, and like I said, make that very contained. But the other is, be in charge of what your mind thinks about, and go at it from the standpoint of thinking, speaking, and acting in the direction you want to go.
I love that. Oh, that is so good. All right, Dr. Joan Rosenburg, where can we find you? Share your book, all the good things, so we can plug into so much more goodness.
Oh, thank you so much for the ask. drjoanrosenburg.com is the best place. It has the consolidation of everything that I'm doing. There's 2 TED Talks on there, but what I want to do actually, Rita, is make available there's an Easier Anxiety book that I wrote a few years ago. And it's a whole different way to look at anxiety, which is, and my understanding that people are now calling this the anxiety pandemic. And what I'm doing is I'm giving it away for free. So if they want to go to drjoanrosenburg.com /anxiety-reset, then they can want to opt in. They can get the PDF of the book for free.
I love it. It's going to be in the show notes. We'll have the link directly to the download for the book. Just put your information in and grab it. This was Dr. Joan Rosenberg's first book, and she really dissects what anxiety really is and provides so many great skills and tools to really get us back to that place of center and calmness. Yes, I've heard that myself, the anxiety pandemic, and I know that you have some pretty strong thoughts around that as well.
I do. And then the other thing that I would direct people to is the third book I wrote, which is 90 Seconds to a Life You Love, and it covers everything. It makes a really big difference in terms of people being able to manage their emotional state. I talk about anxiety in that book as well, but it's a much more it's a bigger change agent. So it's made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. So
it has. Oh my goodness. That book is the bee's knees. I will have it I'll have the Amazon link for that book as well. So you got the free book, but also, I mean, if these are resources that you or someone in your family needs, and I have a feeling that someone in your family is needing it, this is the woman to go to. I mean, this is why I brought her on, is because I want to be able to bring each and every one of you the best resources out there. And Dr. Joan Rosenberg is the go-to for so many people. So Joan, thank you so much for doing the work you do every day.
Thank you, Marie. So same back to you. And again, I'm both grateful and honored to serve. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I'll see you soon, my dear.
Okay. All right.